The Florida Department of Education has awarded a $220 million contract for the new Florida state assessments based on the Common Core state standards. But teachers and parents from around the state have expressed concerns about the over-reliance on standardized test scores to determine education policy. Lawmakers in Tallahassee were among the first in the country to use standardized testing as a means of holding teachers and schools accountable to taxpayers.
Testing has its place. Testing is important. My kids need that structure. They need to know what we're learning is related to each other, and then we're going to take a test to see if we learned it or not. I can't recall a test that I ever took that, not one individual test by itself, that would determine the course of my life.
By failing a single test now, a third grader can be retained.
How do you tell an 8-year-old they're a failure? You've been on the planet for 8 years.
But it's not just third graders who face retention. High school seniors can be denied their diplomas if they don't pass their end of course exams.
Market-based reform and its negative impacts on public schools, I think not only has it facilitated the resegregation of our public schools, it's also facilitating a school-to-prison pipeline.
There's also the problem about the reliability of the tests themselves and what exactly they measure. When the 2012 Program for International Student Assessment scores were released, U.S. Secretary of Education Arne Duncan was quick to call the results unacceptable. But education researchers Martin Carnoy and Richard Rothstein from the Economic Policy Institute come to a very different conclusion. Their analysis of the PISA scores demonstrate the direct correlation between poverty and standardized test performance.
If you adjust for the scores for poverty, our kids compete, 1, 2, and 3 in math, science, and reading. So it's the impact, and no one wants to talk about it because that is where it lies. It's the impact of poverty on students that are barriers to learning.
In fact, a recent study by the Southern Education Foundation reveals that over half of public school children qualify for free or reduced lunch, with some schools well over 90%.
My kids don't have access to the same materials as more affluent peers. My kids don't have the same class size. They don't have the same opportunities. They don't get internships.
In the past, standardized testing has been criticized for its multiple choice format, where good test takers simply eliminate wrong answers without really understanding why the answers are correct. The new Florida Standards Assessments addresses that issue by using a more interactive interface. But the online practice test shows just how difficult the new interface can be, requiring students to either navigate a complex keyboard with unfamiliar characters and entering responses through what's called an equation editor, or by clicking and dragging the correct responses into the appropriate area. All of which raise major concerns about whether we're testing students on their content knowledge or on their computer skills. While concerns about the validity of the tests and their usefulness to measure teacher performance grow louder every day, Florida Commissioner of Education Pam Stewart recently stated that the exams are mandatory and that teachers who encourage their students to opt out of the test will face consequences.
As a parent, it scares me that teachers are being gagged, because now how do I know if I can trust what my teachers are telling me if there's things they can't tell me that they should be telling me? That's a problem.
The controversy surrounding the effectiveness of standardized testing promises to continue as lawmakers in Washington debate the reauthorization of No Child Left Behind. From Miami, I'm Enrique Beloira.